July 6th, 2026, 3:36 p.m. So, I've never been a fan of gore in movies and TV shows. I prefer the old style of shows and movies where they would imply the gore. Um, because I never really liked gore or movies and TV shows written about stories based on revenge. Or, ironically, though, I liked zombie movies. I really like zombie movies and shows, but not because of the gore. It may seem weird, but it was never really the gore that I was interested in. Zombie movies and shows create these very unique dilemmas where you kind of get an idea of what kind of person you are based off of the choices that you make. There are also a lot of moral dilemmas that you encounter that really help to decide what kind of person you really are. When you're in a situation where you have a split second to make a decision and you don't really have the time to stop and think about things because people can die, then, which often happens in zombie shows and movies, then, and I like zombie shows and movies for the same reason that I like medical shows and movies, for the moral and ethical dilemmas. And also the survival aspects, because the two go hand in hand. But when you're in a situation where you have a split second to make a choice, it really shows what kind of person you are in a way that you might not realize what choice you make until the point in time in which you're making it. And I find aspects of the zombie genre to be really interesting on that basis. Excuse me. And it's exactly why I really like things like that. I also like other survival shows and movies that don't have zombies, because it's also just the survival aspects, kind of similar to just going camping, where it's always really something that people like to learn and to know that they can do. Can I survive in the wilderness on my own without somebody to support me or society to support me? Because if there was ever some kind of apocalyptic scenario, would people be able to survive on their own without the structure of society and industry to support them and to hold up the luxurious lifestyles that we all lead? And I don't think most people would be able to, but you never know. It's just that survival skills like that, they'll teach them in, camps in school sometimes, after school programs when you're growing up, but you can also just learn those skills at any time in your life. And it's just the really interesting thing about camping is to know that you can actually be outdoors and know the best choices for yourself to make so that you can be well. And that all revolves around why I like the zombie genre. I hate gore. I'll tolerate gore. When it comes to gore in TV shows and movies, I don't have a weak stomach. I don't like it. So I watched the Saw movies when I was a teenager, like between the age of 12 and 15. But I've never actually liked gore. So the first movie I think is the tamest one, but I've only technically watched the first 3 movies. Those were too much. After the first movie was so bad, I just completely didn't watch any Saw movies after that. I haven't watched anything after the 3rd movie because it was too much for me. Way too much. Way too gory. That was too much for even me. And I've met people who can't even stomach Hollywood horror, let alone that franchise. So that was kind of a lot. I've watched some really scary films, some really gory films, and usually I just tell myself it's just makeup and effects, it's not real gore. And so most of the time I can stomach it, it's not actually real. When you think of it that way, it kind of takes away a lot of the scare aspect. It's very convincing though, but it's kind of intended to be that way, kind of like an illusion that it looks real when it's really not. But that's movie magic for you. So I've never really liked the metal genre of music because of how the lyrics can be very violent, vengeful. Not all of them are, but you have to find specific bands and genres, subgenres of metal that aren't like that, but there are still a lot that are. And I do listen to hip hop though, and I've listened to hip hop since I was 12. It's supposed to be a genre that's supposed to be metal and hip hop are supposed to be genres that are associated to people who are more intellectual, but they're also considered to be genres that tend to have the highest amount of fans who will also kind of romanticize violence. So I don't like violence. I used to identify as an egalitarian, which is like a fancy word to say that I opposed violence and I advocated for human rights. And I've never been a really violent person myself. So I've never really been sadistic. And I've tried to be open-minded. Like, I like hip-hop. And I'll listen to it even if it has violent, sexist, racist, or vulgar words in it. But I don't listen to it because I say those things. I listen to it because even though the artists themselves say those words and say those things, I listen to it more from a perspective of, this is entertainment. I don't have to personally agree with their view just because I like their music. I can think it's well written without thinking that I agree with their values or agree with what they're saying in their music, or because I personally identify with it. It's like recognizing that there's a separation between what they're saying and what I'm saying is why I listen to music like that. I also think that art is the best way for people to escape poverty. So I do think that it's definitely something that applies to all races, and that sometimes the best way for people to escape the cycle that they're stuck in is art. Not everyone is fortunate to be able to get out of poverty that way, but for the ones that are, I do think that supporting it definitely is helpful.